Hello friends, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In case you have not already subscribed it, please do subscribe it and press the bell icon notification. This video we are going to talk about AWS RDS service, which is popularly known as Relational Database Service. And we'll see how we could use this service to set up a Postgres database instance in a few click of events or within few minutes. Now, if we try to understand what AWS RDS service is, it's technically a relational database service on cloud, very highly scalable, serverless, and flexible service. When we talk about serverless, it does not mean that there are no servers at the backend. Technically, there are servers, but they are abstracted from the end users or from the developers or anything. So AWS does everything at the backend, and you just get a kind of a software as a service model where you could just interact with the database and then try to use it. This service come in different choices, like you could have a flavor of MySQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, or Aurora DB, which is technically Amazon's implementation of Postgres or MySQL compatibility databases. The RDS service also provides multi-AZ, that is multi-availability zone, so that you could have failovers, automatically failovers, and even read replica features. Read replicas are more like where you could offload your read-only queries to certain specific databases which are replicated across a region or somewhere. And this synchronization happens like synchronously or asynchronously depending upon the availability within those services. And the RDS service also provides automated backups. You don't have to kind of do a backup just like we do a backup for Postgres or SQL Server on premises. We have to do it, or we need to set up the agent services. But here they are automatically taken care of. The automated backups are there, and there is a service window that is being set for kind of upgrading or patches or whatever. So more likely it is just like set up by AWS. Server is there, but they are abstracted. That's why it's serverless. And let's delve into that without wasting more time into the theory, and we'll actually practically see how we could set up an instance of Postgres and how we could use it with the help of some kind of a GUI tool. So friends, I'm already into the AWS console, and there are certain services that I've already used. In case you want to search for an RDS service, you could still search for an RDS within the search panel, and you could click on that RDS service to actually go in for setting up some kind of a database or some kind of a server instance. Now by default I'm within this region. That's the default region which is always set for you. You could change that region to create those, but this is only for a demonstration purposes. So let's try creating the create database command. And once we do that create database, it's going to pop up a screen where we will set up multiple parameters for setting up that instance and the database settings. There are primarily two options right now. One is the standard create and one is the easy create. Easy create will help you to go with the recommended features and other things rather than specifying a lot of parameters by yourself or selecting on the screen. So we'll go with the standard create feature, and these are the flavors like the engine types or the RDS service which we could use: Amazon Aurora, MySQL, MariaDB, Postgres, Oracle, SQL Server. So let's say I'm going to use the Postgres database. You have different flavors of the Postgres type versions. Let's say I'm going to use 14.3. It all depends upon which one you want to use, and which one you already have is a production load or your development methodology. So that all depends upon that. And then you could choose it from the templates. Like you have three templates. One is the production, the dev or test, and the free tier. Now for the demonstration purpose, I could even choose dev or a test, or I could choose a free tier. Now, based upon my selection of any choice, so let's say if I choose free tier, the availability and durability, like you have multi-AZ or for example, the replication of the data or read replicas, etc. Those features may depend upon the engine you use and even the templates you are going to use. So for example, if I change it to dev and test, I would get, let's say, a multi-AZ DB instance and a single DB instance. But within free tier, I'm only getting one of the cases, that is a single DB instance. So we don't have that. So for the demonstration purpose, I'm just going to use the free tier. And then we have the settings column where we need to provide certain kind of an information. So the first is the DB instance identifier. So type a name for your DB instance. The name must be unique across all DB instances owned by your AWS account. So let's say it's a kind of a server instance if you have worked with SQL Server or anything. So let's say I'll just simply say RD RDS or RD AWS instance. That's I'll give it. And it's giving me certain credential settings where it is asking me to give a master username, which is by default a Postgres. Now I could use like to manage the credentials, you could use the AWS secrets manager to manage that, or you could also auto generate a password. But I'm just going to use a master password, which I'm going to use that. So I'll just specify a master password over here, and I need to confirm it, which is also that case. So that's confirmed. And then the instance configuration, it's giving me burstable classes, including T classes. So it's a db.t3.micro, like a kind of a virtual or a VM machine that would be highlighted for you. So we could select on different instances that are available. So it's only for the demonstration. So there are few one because we are using the free tier. So let's say I just use 1 GB, this TG4 with this network bandwidth, and it's only for the demonstration purpose. So that could solve our purpose. Storage type is the next options where you select what kind of a storage options you want to kind of go in for. You have a GP2 or a GP3. This performance scales independently from storage, and the baseline performance determined by the volume size. So depending upon what kind of a database workload you want to run, so you could categorize your storage types. But right now this is good for me because I'm just going to do a basic one. This is the 20 GB allocated storage is there. And if you want these storage auto scaling means if, let's say, your database size increases, you want auto scaling to go around, so you could set those settings over here. I don't need the auto scaling, so I'm just making it off. And you want some connectivity info, whether you don't connect an EC2 compute resource, or you could set up a compute EC2 resource for this database, or what is the network type, IPv4, dual stack mode. So we are not going to discuss, I'm just okay with IPv version 4. And the virtual private cloud in which the database and the instance would be hosted. So this is the default VPC, which is already created for me. I'm just selecting that. VPC is nothing but a virtual private cloud, and we could create a new virtual private cloud also, but for that it's beyond the scope of this video. We need like how to create a network, have subnets, use some network security groups and other things, but we're just going with the default VPC. And this is the DB subnet group, which is also the default one, so I'm just using that. And in case you want a public access, so RDS assigns a public IP address to the database. Amazon EC2 instances and other resources outside of the VPC can connect to your database. So fundamentally, this is not a good practice to allow public access for the security and obvious reasons. But because I'm going to demonstrate it from my local PC to connect onto a RDS instance, so I'm just going to allow a public access. And then because we are using the VPC's security group firewall, so you need some security group. So either you could create a new security group, or you could just use the default one. So that's there. And the availability zone in which you want to put it around, you want to put in West 2A, 2B, 2C, 2D. So let's say I don't have any preference, let it put, because it's only a demonstration purpose. And this is the certificate authority, which is an optional, like kind of a SSL layer, where you secure your connections through the what you call as a secured connections, rather than using a simple plain connection. So that's what it is automatically done for that. And the database authentication. So you have three modes. One is the password authentication. So one is the password and IAM. IAM stands for Identity Access Management Database Authentication, where the other users could also use the IAM users and roles to actually provide some kind of a system identity or a managed identity. So let's say you're going to use with that. Or there is a third one, which is password and cross authentication. So for me, password and IAM database authentication would be good, or even password authentication would be good, because it's only for the demonstration one. And then you have other settings like monitoring. I don't need some kind of a performance insights or anything. You would have different tiers for like free period, or so you have to pay for that. So I'm good to make this off. And additional configuration for the monitoring, I don't need that. Additional configuration, that is the initial database name. So because the instance we set it up, if you see, that was named as RD AWS instance, and that's what I set. So here I'm just gonna give the database name as the test database, and by default there is a DB parameter group. We are not going into that, so let's keep it as default. We don't want automated backups or anything, so there is a retention period or a window where you want that. I don't need it. I could make it off. You want encryption service, you could bring your AWS KMS key service, you could bring your own keys, or you could have the AWS managed keys. I don't need that encryption, only for if it is a production overload. It is highly recommended to go for that. If you need log exports or anything, you could use this service. And the maintenance window, where it says enable auto minor version upgrade, help you to automatically upgrade to the newer minor versions. And you could choose a window, maintenance window, which window, or no preference. So it means the AWS automatically chooses a time framework when it does a maintenance for you. And based upon whatever you have selected, it also lets you know about the monthly estimated cost. But because we have chosen a RDS free tier, so each calendar year the free tier will allow you to use that. So these instances are there, 20 GB of this. So I'm good with that. And so we are good with all the parameters and everything. So we can just click on the create database. So once you click on the create database, a database instance for Postgres would be set up, which we specified as RDS AW instance, as you could see. And then of course our database would also be created, where we named it as a test database. So this is gonna take some time, depending upon might be a couple of minutes to 5 minutes. So once this gets finished off, we'll come back and we'll continue from the same and see how we could connect onto this database. So stay tuned, don't go away, and I'll be actually showing you how to connect to this Postgres database and start playing with that. So now we can see that the database instance is ready. It has been created, and this is the DB identifier that we gave. So if we click on the RD AWS instance identifier, you would go into the other detailed stuff, like you have a connectivity and security, which tells you in which security groups or monitoring or logs or events or configuration and other things are available out here. Now this also has a replication which is not enabled, or an IAM rules or proxies being set it out. So what is more important is over here is connectivity and security. So if we see, we could just copy this endpoint, because this is the endpoint that we can use to connect to this serverless Postgres database. So I can copy that, and the port for the Postgres is 5432. Now if I could just go on to the PGAdmin tool, which is a graphical user interface, we could actually use it for connecting on. So I'll create a register a new server, Let's say I'll give a name AWS instance. Then I go on to the connections. I provide the host name or the address, the port, and then the password also, which I specified to A. And then I just press the save. So now if all looks good, it would actually be connecting on to AWS instance, and we could see you have the Postgres database, that's the maintenance database. There is an RDS admin database which gets created, and then there is a test database which we actually highlighted. So this is the one which we specified at the time of the RDS service, creation of the RDS service. Here is the schemas. You have a public schema. You could create your own schema out here, and then you have our tables out here. You could create your tables. Let's say we'll create a table out here. The table name is, let's say, DPT table. It's within the public schema. So we go on to the columns. Let's say we create a new column out here, which is, let's say, DPT number. This is, for example, big integer, and we'll create one more, which is, let's say, D name, and which is, let's say, it's a kind of a string, or let's say a text. Okay, so we'll do that. We'll create save. So the table is created. If you see, you have got columns, constraints. You could also use a query tool out here, where you could actually start doing some kind of a query or anything. So if I just simply say select star from DPT, and then I'll just try to run this. So if we see, if I just try to run this, select, yes, I try to insert some data, it is there. I could show you another command. Let's insert into DPT, and then we'll specify department number, D name, and then the values. Let's say it's 20, and the department is, let's say, legal. Now this is how we insert it, and once I run this, you'll get an insertion which is successful. So run the select command, which looks fine. Now 2 records are there. Now whenever you are running this command, because it is connected to the AWS instance, so if you just go back within the RDS instance and you see the monitoring, within the monitoring, so you will see the DB connections and CPU utilizations little bit moving up, because I'm trying to use some kind of a table creation or insertion of some record, so anything. So that's what is happening. So I hope, guys, this video would help you to kind of there's one more thing. If your database, you are not able to connect onto your database, so you could just go on to the connectivity and security, and then you would be needing to create one kind of a security group where you allow your current IP to connect onto the Postgres database. So if I click over here, and then if I see it in this place, so this one is actually allowing an inbound rule, so in this which allows to connect to the Postgres TCP IP 5432, and this is my IP, because the public IP, that when we actually set up the RDS instance, we actually allowed the public connections, or it should be accessible through internet. So that could be one of the issues if you're not able to connect, but otherwise you'll be able to connect. You're just maintaining everything, working with your databases. No servers are abstracted for you, automated backups are there, read replicas, and everything could be automatically worked around. So I hope, guys, this is something which you would kind of a new thing for you if you are new to the cloud and AWS instances or RDS services, and this way you could set it up, get along, and it's a free tier edition. No, you're not going to pay any charges for that. Of course, it comes with limited facilities. So I hope you guys like this. I'll be coming back with more videos, so stay tuned and have a good one. Thank you.